Hi, and thanks for tuning in. I wanted to remind you of our Road to 1,000 subscribers giveaway that we have going on our YouTube channel. If you subscribe and have a public profile, you'll be entered to win a free RX Smart Gear original jump rope. You'll get to pick the pattern of the handles, the color and weight of the cable, and you'll be getting one of the best-selling, best-performing jump ropes out there. Every time we hit a new century mark with the number of subscribers to our channel, we'll randomly select a new winner. And our friend Dave Newman is going to throw in a little something extra for each winner. So a special thanks to our sponsor, RX Smart Gear, to Dave Newman for being such a great partner, and to you for being a loyal listener. Good luck, and I hope you are our next winner.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. I wanted to talk to you about our new sponsor, Element 26. They are an innovative company producing lots of products around the CrossFit, strongman, powerlifting space. They have weightlifting belts, they have knee sleeves, they have thumb tape. They have these cool little straps that go around the bars when you're trying to attach a bar to the rig and maybe using it for low bar work, like pull-ups for little kids, or some modifications for like bar muscle ups when you're trying to teach someone to do them. And you know how you wrap those rubber bands around the rig and the J hook to kind of keep everything straight? Well, they've made straps for that. And they're straps kind of like the straps you use for rings. They have a really secure system on it, and you can wrap around the bar and keep that nice and secure. I love their innovation. Their product development team is top notch, and they're just coming up with really different ideas for our space. So check them out at element26.co. That's element26.co, and tell them Kat sent you.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, hey everyone, welcome back to the Clydesdale Fitness and Friends. My name is Scott Switzer. I am the Clydesdale and I am your host. We love to do fitness, and I'm here with my friend Casey, who is the 2021 CrossFit Games champion. That has a pretty nice ring to it, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
He won the adaptive upper limb division. Is that what it's technically called?
Yep.
And so we want to talk about kind of his origin story, what got him into fitness and all those things, and kind of hear his thoughts on the adaptive division at the CrossFit Games. And he is a 4-time WODAPALOOZA champion, and WODAPALOOZA is just around the corner. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. All right, Casey, welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. So I want to start with your childhood. You grew up in Illinois.
Yes, that's correct.
And you credit your parents with giving you the mindset that made you successful with sports throughout your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, my upbringing was pretty classic. I grew up in a really small town, kind of the traditional Midwest type of place. And yeah, just have, super, super hardworking parents to this day. Two of the hardest working people that I know. My dad's been a sheet metal worker his entire life. So if anyone is familiar with that, it's not it's no cushy job. So yeah, just like super proud of that upbringing. And yeah, I would say, being born with, other than I guess the one difference that I have compared to the average kid when it came to my upbringing, is that I was born without the lower left portion of my arm. So I grew up with one hand, no idea what it was that caused it. But my parents kind of just took it for what it was. And, yeah, like you touched on, I credit a lot of what I've been able to achieve and challenge myself to do in my life to, the way that they raised me. And that was that, I wasn't allowed to use my, differences as any sort of an excuse to not try to achieve the same things that anyone else should be, trying to do. I have 2 siblings, and they raised me, essentially just the same as them. And they expected the same sort of standards and effort from me when it came to schoolwork, athletics, whatever it is that we were involved in. They always, just taught us to work as hard as we could, give it as much effort as we could. Because, end of the day, that was going to pay off, no matter what it was that we were doing. So, yeah, definitely been instilled with that work ethic my entire life.
Yeah, there's something about growing up in that blue collar family. Like I grew up in Western Pennsylvania. My dad was a machinist.
Yeah.
He would, hot chips would come off of what he was making, and he'd have burn marks on his arm, and it
Yep,
was nothing for him.
that's my dad. We have a joke in our family. My dad has all these, they're his work shirts, and they all have holes in them. And it's from that exact thing. Hot berries coming off of metal that he's working on that just burned holes into all of his shirts. And yeah, absolutely. It's, I think growing up, I didn't really kind of, I don't know, have the perspective to know like how beneficial some of those lessons that you learn growing up like that, would be. But as I've gotten older and I've been able to kind of see more parts of the world, it makes me, like even more proud. And, I don't know, I look back and see how many lessons I learned by, being around those types of things, and the benefit to learning the value of hard work and the value of, tight family relationships and things like that you kind of have to develop whenever you grow up like that.
Yeah, there's a stick-to-itiveness you learn, and like my parents never let me quit.
Mm-hmm.
If I committed to something, I had to see it through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally get that. But what kind of amazed me when I read is that you were like a 3-sport athlete. You did not let the missing the lower part of your arm affect you at all. You played football, basketball, and ran track.
Yes. Yep.
So
that's correct.
What position did you play in basketball?
I was, I would say a shooting guard, combo guard, type player. But I always make sure to provide the disclaimer that I was lucky enough to play with some extremely talented basketball players. And so I had 2 teammates that I played all throughout high school with, that combined for, I don't know, like 3,700 points between the 2 of them. So I didn't have to do very much touching of the ball or scoring or anything like that. Definitely what my specialty was defense. And so I think that the work ethic and the hustle and that type of thing is kind of, can all, everything that I do now and the things that I achieve now are all traced back to sports for me. That's where I developed the mindset of how much, hard work can, do for you. So yeah, played basketball, 3-year varsity letter earner in basketball. Same with football. In football, I played wide receiver and defensive back. Again, you'd think like wide receiver doesn't necessarily seem like the obvious choice for someone that only has one hand.
I just figured you made Odell Beckham catches on every play.
I did. Like, I'm not trying to, I'm very modest when it comes to things like that. I could catch pretty well relative to the fact that I only had one hand. And I did do a lot of just like, reach out with one hand and snag the ball out of the air. Again, kind of same story. Played with a kid who was an all-state running back, rushed for, I don't know, almost probably 4,000 yards in his career. And so we did a lot of running the ball. So I always tell people, even though I was a wide receiver, I was actually kind of more like an extended tackle. I did a lot of blocking out there, not as much catching of the ball, which again is totally fine. Defensive side was, again, in football kind of where my focus was and where I excelled the most. I think because of maybe my awareness and knowledge and my obsession with studying the other teams that we were playing and knowing, what their tendencies were on certain downs and things like that. So like really basketball and football, what I tried to do is like, take, I have one hand. I'm going to be at an obvious disadvantage relative to that. And that was fine. There was nothing that I was going to be able to change about that. So what could I optimize? What could I be the absolute best at? And so those things were be the hardest worker on the field and on the court, be the best teammate, never always be the most supportive of my teammates. and try to also be the smartest and most aware player on the floor, on the field. So because of those things, I was lucky enough to get a lot of playing time and have a decent amount of personal and team success in a lot of the sports that I played growing up.
Because you had to immerse yourself so much into the sports to do that, did it give you a bigger love for fitness, exercise, and the sport itself because of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was the one that as soon as summertime hit, as soon as track season was over for the spring and the weight room would start opening up to start training for the upcoming fall football season, I was there every day that it was open. It didn't matter if, we had basketball summer tournaments or things going on. I made sure to hit the weight room. And I was also the one that after the weight room, I was getting as many guys as I could to stick around and let's head out to the track and let's do some sprints, or let's go run a couple miles, or, what extra we could do to, again, excel as a team. And also for me personally, again, knowing and having the awareness that I was at some obvious disadvantages with the skill aspects of the sport, find ways to optimize what I could. So be in really, really great shape, get as strong as I could, doing as much of the things in the weight room as I could at the time. So yeah, I mean, that definitely is where, sports is where I got involved in the weight room. I learned about CrossFit while I was in high school. I was lucky enough to have an athletic trainer who part-time of his day, he spent working as a CrossFit trainer at a CrossFit gym that was nearby. So he kind of gave me that initial exposure to some of the CrossFit principles. And so, yeah, that was the carryover. Once I got into college, I knew that I wanted to do something related to sport in some way, shape, or form. It originally started as I wanted to be an actual sport coach, be a football coach or basketball coach or something like that. My first couple of years of college, I started spending even more time working out and in the weight room, just because I needed something physically active to keep doing since I wasn't competing anymore. And so that's whenever I really, really started to immerse myself in training principles and strength and conditioning. And I came back to kind of dabbling in some CrossFit while I was in college.
And you studied exercise science, got your BS, and then went back to grad school?
Yes. Yep. So as soon as I graduated with my bachelor's, I stayed in school. I graduated from Eastern Illinois University with my bachelor's. They had a 1-year graduate program for kinesiology. So I stayed, worked as a graduate assistant in the kinesiology department, got to basically kind of run an adult fitness program. So got kind of really immersed into some of the other aspects of fitness outside of strength and conditioning, which is where kind of my initial, focus was. So that's pretty much everything in my life from high school, college, and then after graduating college has been related to fitness in some capacity. So, yeah.
So what was the first thing you did after graduating from Eastern Illinois? Did you go into the fitness industry immediately?
Yeah. So as soon as I graduated, there was a CrossFit gym near where I grew up that was looking for a part-time coach. So the graduate being finishing in August, since it was a 1 year, it was like fall until summer. I knew there was it's kind of like timing weird of when like strength and conditioning jobs may be coming available. Because as I said, that kind of was my initial goal or target. So I saw that there was, the part-time CrossFit coaching job nearby, where I grew up. So I went and tried it out and got the job just kind of working as a part-time CrossFit coach. I worked at that gym just part-time for, I don't know, maybe 6 months. And then another gym that was even closer to where I lived and even bigger was looking for a full-time head coach and manager of their CrossFit gym. So about 6 months after I graduated college, I took that position, managing a CrossFit gym. And it was actually owned by a hospital. So I was able to kind of get into a really great situation, working that full-time job, technically as a hospital employee, but managing the CrossFit gym.
Very cool. And how long did you stay there?
I was there for almost 3 years. During the time that I was coaching at the CrossFit gym, I was still doing a lot of, additional coaching education, studying and learning from a lot of the great CrossFit coaches and also traditional strength and conditioning coaches or personal trainers, and that kind of thing. During that time, I took the Opex Fitness CCP coaching certificate program. So Opex Fitness is owned by James Fitzgerald, who was the first ever CrossFit Games champion. It was a very in-depth coaching. It's a year-long coaching education program that was built around individual design coaching. So I started to really kind of see the benefit of being able to work with people on an individual level. So I started taking that coaching program, started working remotely with some individuals coaching. Some were CrossFit athletes, some were just people looking for general fitness and health and that kind of thing. And so then almost 3 years into working for the CrossFit gym, I left, opened up my own business along with two of my best friends and business partners. So our gym is called Summit Systems. We do individualized program design for people of all backgrounds. And we also do some youth small group sports performance training. So opened the gym actually like 2 years ago today. Actually, I think January 5th of 2020 was my very first day of opening our doors to our first clients. And then, of course, 2 or 3 months later, had our doors forcefully shut by the state of Illinois because of COVID. But we were able to, kind of pivot, switch to an online platform, maintain our in-person and remote clients. And when we were allowed to open back up, we were still firing on all cylinders. So yeah, that's what I've kind of has been my full-time job ever since January of 2020.
Okay, so you're not playing fair, because those were my next notes. Talk to you about Summit Systems.
Sorry.
And you're reading ahead.
Yeah.
And jumping down there, but
yeah.
So you were what, like 27 when you started Summit Systems?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And do you prefer the more one-on-one approach to the group classes?
I do. I loved coaching CrossFit. I loved working at a CrossFit gym. I loved the group environment. I was lucky enough to, basically take over the reins on a CrossFit gym that was very well established. It was a 10-year affiliate at the time. And they had a really, really solid personality in the gym. But for me, being, a professional coach, I felt like I was limited on what I could do for each person's individual goals, as well as for what they're doing outside of the gym. When you're managing a CrossFit gym, and we had 300 members at our CrossFit gym, you just kind of don't really have the resources. And I was the only full-time coach. All of our other coaches were part-time, very limited. All of them had their other full-time jobs or kids or things like that. So I just kind of felt handcuffed on what no pun intended, on what I could do as far as, really digging into what each person needs for their lifestyle and for their background and for what their goals are. And being able to coach individually has kind of opened that for me. I can talk to people about their nutrition and their lifestyle and, what's happening in their other 23 hours outside of their exercise time. So to me, it gives me a little bit more of a rewarding feeling I can develop a little bit closer relationship with each one of my clients. And it's also opened up the doors for me to work with clients all over the world. I live in so my business is in Decatur, Illinois, and it's a relatively large town, but it's a declining population. And it's certainly not the healthiest place in the world. It's a very blue collar town. It was founded around industry and corn and soy processing. And so a very blue collar town that doesn't necessarily see the value in exercise or fitness. So it's just allowed for me to increase my reach from a business standpoint and be able to work with clients, all over the world. So I have some clients that are in the Middle East that are in the military right now. I have a client that lives in Iceland. So being able to work one-on-one with people has, kind of made it to where my market is a little bit wider. So that's also been, a big benefit of, pivoting to the one-on-one coaching profession.
And let's not forget, Decatur is the original home of my beloved Chicago Bears.
That is true. It is the Decatur Staleys, the
Yep.
one and only, and they made the right move by getting out when they did, I think. Unfortunately.
Yeah, probably. Chicago's
Yeah.
a tiny bit bigger.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to finish out kind of the coaching programming kind of thing with you before we get into the athlete side.
Okay.
And that is that, one, you are now coaching high school football?
Yes, I do. Yep. As an assistant coach. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. So
Yes.
what you kind of got into it initially for, you get a little taste of on the side of your big business. You have this little side hustle.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the other thing about, coaching one-on-one that's been a benefit for me, is that it's allowed for me to kind of take over my schedule a little bit and do some of those things that I still have a passion for, but, coaching high school football isn't a full-time career. And so I'm able to kind of do some of those things that I love a little bit more freely, while running my business.
So I got to ask, how did the relationship with Underdogs come along?
Yeah. I really, honestly, it just came about by me trying to jump at an opportunity. Underdogs several months ago released just an Instagram post that they were looking for individual remote coaches. And so it's kind of an all call of, hit this email address and send in your information and a cover letter, and someone will contact you. And I had followed Justin and kind of the crew that they had been developing over the last year out there. Huge fan of some of the athletes that they coach. And so I was kind of, consuming some of the media that was coming out around them. He's just a solid guy. Kind of like what you said, pretty laid back, and I kind of connect with him pretty well. So yeah, I sent in my resume and a cover letter and said, this is what I do now, and this is who I am. And I had a phone call with Justin, and we talked, and he felt like I would be a good addition to the team, and so it's kind of grown from there. So it was really just me saying, hey, why not? I have, again, like I said, I have some flexibility over my day. I have some extra time that I could be, adding some other things to my resume, and I jumped at the opportunity, and it's been an awesome experience so far. Like I said, Justin is just a really, really solid guy, super cool and laid back, but also a phenomenal coach, and is really developing something awesome out in Las Vegas. And I'm excited for it to continue to grow, and for my role with the team to kind of continue to expand.
Yeah. Justin and Ashley are two of my favorite people in CrossFit.
They're so awesome.
Love them to death.
Yeah.
And so I got to ask, they have started releasing different programs,
Yeah.
master's level, competitive, teen division, and adaptive.
Yeah.
And what role do you play on the adaptive side of their online programming?
Yeah, so that was, something that Justin and I discussed in our initial conversation. And it was an idea that I presented to him, and one that he had actually kind of already, he said he was kind of thinking about it as well. So yeah, I mean, I just suggested that, knowing that they have this growing online template competitors program, that with my experience on the adaptive side of CrossFit, of competing as well as coaching individual athletes, that, maybe we take that competitor's template program that he develops, and, let me take that and transition it into the, adaptive accessible divisions, and create a really solid adaptive competitors focused program. And so, yeah, that's essentially what it is. That we just started and released it for the first time this week. This week started a new cycle on the Underdogs competitors program. It's the kind of the open prep cycle here, getting ready for the open to start at the end of February. And so, yeah, I use the framework that Justin produces for the able-bodied elite competitors, and I transition it into the 10 major adaptive competitive divisions. So that ranges from upper limb injuries, lower limb injuries, neuromuscular, wheelchair, sensory, short stature. So there's just a wide range of divisions that adaptive athletes can compete in. And yeah, I take that program and plug in what the adaptive variations should be.
So, because I'm not familiar with the adaptive programming, how much of it is a one-to-one relationship from the competitive programming, and how much do you have to almost redo for that adaptive division?
Yeah, it's there. To answer your question, it's kind of twofold. Some of it is you can almost just take, and it's plug and play. It looks almost exactly the same. And it may also depend on the division. So for myself, I'm an upper limb, upper extremity amputee. When there's back squatting on the competitors program, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And that's what the upper limb athletes are going to do. On the flip side of that, if there's back squatting in the competitors program, that transition that I make for someone that's a seated athlete isn't going to be back squatting, obviously. So we would transition that to a primary strength movement for them, something like a bench press or a barbell row, or some other primary strength piece that a seated athlete needs to be very proficient in. So a lot of it can look pretty much the same, with some minor variations. Without having to sit here and list every single one, because like I said, there's 10 divisions that I have it broken down into. Even within a kind of overarching division, there can be some pretty big differences. So upper limb is actually broken into two sections. We have what's called upper 1 and upper 2. Upper 1 is someone that's a 1 point of attachment. So that would be someone who has an amputation that is high on their arm, where they basically don't have any other way to connect or attach to a barbell or a pull-up bar. They're considered upper 1. I'm upper 2 because I have my bicep, I have an elbow joint, and I'm able to use straps or other different modifications to use 2 points of contact on a barbell. So I'm considered upper 2. And all of the divisions are kind of broken down into these kind of more specific and finer, more specific divisions. So there's going to be some variation in some of those things. But Underdogs posted a pretty good example the other day of a very like open-esque workout. It was a 14-minute AMRAP with some rowing, some wall ball shots, some toes to bar, some deadlift, and ring muscle ups. So for my division, it was all things that a 2 point of attachment upper limb athlete could do, except for the ring muscle ups. That gets changed to a bar muscle up, because at this point, the competitive standard for someone who's able to put 2 points of attachment on a pull-up bar There's enough athletes that are doing bar muscle ups that have an amputation just below the elbow, that's at the most competitive level, that's appropriate for us. Whereas a 1 point of attachment for a pull-up variation, they're not going to do a bar muscle up. They're going to have some other variation that's more specific for them. So yeah, kind of a very lengthy answer to say some of it looks exactly the same. Some of it is totally different. It kind of just depends on what it is.
So as an adaptive athlete, is this the first kind of programming of its kind in the space, or
yeah, there are some other programs out there, and not very many at all. And the reason for that is kind of just what I explained, and that there's so much variation in what you can see. So when it all comes down to it, the best option for an adaptive athlete is an individualized program. And that's just the fact of the matter, because of the uniqueness of every single one. And that's also why the adaptive competitive divisions have been kind of slow to develop and grow. And it's why it took the CrossFit Games as many years as it did to even include it, because there's so much diversity, and because it just took enough participation of enough athletes to be able to kind of refine these divisions and create some sort of set of standards of what is to be expected within each one. So yeah, I mean, there's some other programs out there that are, putting out workouts for the various adaptive divisions. I would say this is the first one that we are really, really saying and focusing and saying, like, the purpose of this program is to help an adaptive competitor develop as an athlete, not this is kind of like a broad general physical preparation program for the various adaptive divisions. And that's been the focus for Justin, and the vision of Underdogs Athletics is that it is a competitors focused program. And there's no shame in saying that. Are there a ton of CrossFitters or fitness enthusiasts out there that just need general physical preparedness? Absolutely. And are there programs out there for those people? Absolutely. But the focus for Underdogs up to this point has been to develop athletes and develop competition readiness. And that's what the focus of the adaptive competitors program is. And it is probably some of the most challenging adaptive programming that some of the athletes have ever seen, for those that are beginning to do the program this week.
So do you have coaches available for people who sign up for this program that may need like a little further modification to a workout to help those adaptive athletes? Yes.
And that was also one of the goals for Justin in bringing me on, with my experience in the adaptive divisions and with the recent inclusion of the adaptive divisions into the CrossFit Games, is the awareness that there are going to be people and athletes that are, that fit into these adaptive categories, that now that it's an option at the CrossFit Games, they're going to be looking for some more specific coaching, because they're saying, hey, there's something for me to do now. I can go compete at the CrossFit Games. Maybe now I need some coaching, just the same way that, Danielle Brandon and Carrie Pierce needed some individual coaching to reach their highest potential. And so that is another aspect of what I'm doing for Underdogs Athletics, is coaching individual athletes and being a specific contact for, if they do have someone inquire for individualized coaching that is an adaptive athlete, Justin can send them to me, with that being kind of my field of expertise, to, if someone is wanting some one-on-one coaching, they can come to me and I can provide that. In addition to that, for the people who are jumping on the template programming, all those people, as I see them signing up and starting to put some of their scores into the leaderboard, I've been reaching out to every single one of them and saying, hey, glad to see you on the program. If you have any questions, here's my contact information. I'm happy to help, because of, again, my knowledge of knowing that there is so much diversity that it is almost impossible to write a perfect program that hits every single every single possibility of who might sign up for it. So even, like I said, even within some of the divisions that we have created, as specifically as I can possibly create that template program, there may still be some variation. And so I've reached out to every single one of those people that have started to sign up and just offered my, my recommendations if they have anything specifically that they need to modify or adapt for whatever their specific situation is.
I love how you put that with the people that now see the opportunity, because we had Amy Bream on late December, and she never CrossFitted until she knew that it was a way to get to the CrossFit Games.
Absolutely.
Because there was nothing for her to compete in before that.
Yeah. Other than WODAPALOOZA has been around for a while with the adaptive division. There's the Wheel WOD Games. There's the Working Wounded Games. So there's some other smaller ones, and they've all gained steam and grown to be, really, really solid competitions. But we all know that the CrossFit Games is the gold standard. And it's the one that everyone's kind of been waiting for. And so, with that, the need for coaches to be ready to train adaptive athletes is going to increase as well. And so that's where Underdogs kind of wanted to jump on the opportunity to, have that available.
And overarching, she ended up on an ESPN commercial.
Yeah.
Tia Toomey didn't.
Yeah, that's true. It's going to be, and if you talk to a lot of adaptive athletes, there's kind of these jokes about how we're kind of used, for lack of a better term, we're used as inspiration porn a little bit.
Yeah.
And like, you understand it, you get it. When you see someone like Amy, who only has one leg, and you see her, doing some of the things that she does, or you see someone like Logan Aldridge, who, had an injury and only has one arm, and you see him doing a 225-pound clean and jerk with literally only one hand on the bar. You're like, yeah, you get why there's that inspiration. And so, if the inclusion of the adaptive divisions into the CrossFit games gets some people that are, have been in a wheelchair their whole life, that have never really felt like they can go into a gym and exercise and improve their health, then great. It's kind of the same thing that has happened with the CrossFit Games. When the CrossFit Games started and began to blow up, there's people who walked into a CrossFit gym for the first time because they saw Rich Froning. And those people may never go on to compete in even a local competition, but it got them through the door. It got them thinking about their health. It got them seeing something that looked different from an exercise standpoint than anything else they had ever thought was available. So, that has the potential to be hugely beneficial for so many people who, maybe never thought that there was something available for them to do because they were different from the norm.
Yeah. So cool. So let's talk about your inspiration porn as an athlete.
Sure.
What was the point in your life that you knew that fitnessing fast was going to be something you were good at?
Well, I like I said, I started getting back into CrossFit when I was in college. After I was done with high school sports, for a while I did the 5K run thing. When in high school track, I was a middle to long distance runner. So I had kind of that running background. I dabbled in some of that stuff just as something to do. I started getting into bodybuilding a little bit, and started developing some of these adaptations and modifications to be able to do, exercise with both sides of my body that I hadn't really, been able to develop when I was in high school in the weight room. And so a couple years of doing some of that stuff, started getting a little bit bored with it. One of my really good friends, who is now a business partner, started kind of dabbling with CrossFit again a little bit. Like I said, I had a little bit of previous knowledge with it, and just kind of started doing it for the sake of doing it. And really enjoyed it once I started learning how to do some of the more complex movements, and finding out some of the modifications and adaptations that I needed to do to be able to do them correctly. And yeah, there was about a year and a half, or maybe even 2 years there, where I was just kind of doing it and training like an athlete, for the sake of it, and didn't really know that there was anything available for me to do competition wise. And I saw the potential for it, and I kind of just said, I'm going to train like this just for the sake of it, and because I enjoy doing it, and it challenges me, and kind of gives me that little competitive, taste that I enjoy so much from being an athlete growing up. And then WODAPALOOZA became available, and I saw some other athletes in 2016, Logan Aldridge and Derek Carver and Derek Wada, and other adaptive athletes competed in it. And I was like, okay, maybe this is something that I can do. So I really started to push and start to, again, train like an athlete, having no idea how good I was going to be. But I did know that kind of some of the background that I had as an athlete, having that aerobic base of being a long distance runner, was a huge benefit for me. I was coming in with, a huge aerobic foundation and baseline. And that time that I spent basically doing bodybuilding, I developed a good amount of foundational strength. And so I did the WODAPALOOZA adaptive qualifier for the first time in the fall of 2017. Won all of the workouts in that. Went to WODAPALOOZA in January, or sorry, I guess it would have been fall of 2016. Went to WODAPALOOZA in January of 2017. Won the adaptive division in that, and from there it's kind of just taken off for me. I've been able to really refine my own training, learn what works best for me, and won and competed at the highest level in pretty much everything that's been available for an adaptive athlete up to this point. So I don't know, I guess to answer your question of like, when did I know that this was something that I could be good at, really take off? I guess it was probably that first WODAPALOOZA, when I showed up, and it was very small then. There was only 4 people in my division, who were solid athletes, and I was able to win every event that we were allowed to do in the competition at that point, which I believe was, only 4 or 5 workouts over the course of 2 or 3 days. So yeah, maybe it was then, and I enjoyed it. I loved it. I enjoy training just for the sake of training. I enjoy challenging myself just for the sake of it. And so to have a competition outlet to do, is kind of just the icing on top. I tell people all the time, and I tell athletes that, you really, to be able to do this for a long time and to do it at the highest levels, you have to step back and ask yourself, would you be willing to do some of these things if the competition didn't exist? And for some people, the answer is no, and that's okay. But I think you can get so much more out of it if you'd be willing to train like this some days, even if there wasn't something, at the end of the road. Can you honor and take value in maximal self-expression of fitness just for the sake of it? And for me, that's always been the case. And so I think that's why I've been able to stick around doing it now for, 5 years. Because especially for the adaptives, it's not been, up until the CrossFit Games, it's not really been something that you could do and make any money. So that couldn't have been a motivator for anybody up to this point. Because, up until the CrossFit Games last year, every competition I've ever done has been more expensive than has been the first place prize money that I got. Which is fine. It's just the way that things are. There just hasn't been the exposure for adaptive athletes to, make a lot of prize money by competing in CrossFit. And so that's fine. I don't know, I'm kind of ranting a little bit here now, but yeah, I mean, I think that for me, it's just kind of continue to be something that I enjoy doing, that I can challenge myself personally and continue to grow as an athlete and as a coach, because there are those competitions that I can do and kind of use as my my self-assessment on, am I still improving?
So are you going to WODAPALOOZA this year?
Yes, I am. This will
And
be
you'll be
year 5. Yeah,
defending your 4-year in a row title.
that's right. Yep,
All
that's
right.
right. That's the hopes, that's the goals, along with this year also year 2 of the CrossFit Games, with the Open starting here in just a month and a half, basically.
We'll get to that in just one second, but this
Sure.
is my first year going to WODAPALOOZA.
Okay.
So what is your one recommendation of something I should do while I'm there?
You have to go to the Salty Donut. It's
Okay.
they're world famous. It's Noah Olson's favorite donut place. And if you love donuts, they are literally the best donuts that you will ever have in your life.
All right. I love it.
I as a competitor, as an athlete, unfortunately, at least for me and my experience, it's really hard to get away and enjoy Miami outside of competition. And maybe that's just the way that I approach competition. In between my events, I really need to and like to get away from the craziness and go back to my room and turn the lights down and just relax. So I've never been to WODAPALOOZA outside of being a competitor. I always say that once I'm done competing, I definitely will go as a spectator, hopefully as a coach, and kind of be able to enjoy the experience of it, because it is fun. Even as an athlete, it's always been a super fun experience for me. So yeah, that's the one thing that myself and my wife and the people that have traveled with me before down there, we always make sure that we go to the Salty Donut before we leave, because their donuts are amazing.
Awesome. Well, I'm actually just a little self-promotion. I'll be there doing the podcast live.
Nice.
On their podcast stage. So
yeah.
So it's going to be I'm pretty stoked about it.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't like to go to Miami in January?
Exactly. Yeah. Especially, like for me in Illinois right now, it's been icy and snowy and cold. And so it's a nice few days of getting to enjoy some beautiful weather and getting to, see, a lot of friends and people that I've developed relationships, having competed in it for, like I said, for my 5th year now. And so, yeah, it is truly that, it is a fitness festival, and it really truly is. It's such a fun experience, and it's such a great time. And yeah, I think for people that go there as spectators, it's like a party the whole time pretty much.
Yeah.
And you get to see some awesome fitness while you're there. So yeah, it's one of the most fun competitions that I get to do in my year.
Yeah, I'm in Columbus, Ohio, so we get your weather a day later.
Exactly. Yep. You're right behind me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to wrap this up with the games.
Sure.
Last year was the first year that we had an adaptive division.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get your perspective on how you think the games did in its first year with the adaptive division.
Yeah, I think, and there's, I think every competition organizer, and I've organized and overseen competitions, smaller throwdowns, in my past, so I kind of have a little bit of experience with it. Definitely not on the scale of the CrossFit Games, but I think every competition organizer, when they get done, if you don't have things that you would have improved on, then you're not doing it right. So I think it would be crazy to say that it was, perfect. But again, with the knowledge of, or kind of the understanding that it is so challenging to put on a truly competitive, adaptive competition, knowing that, I think that they did a really, really great job of programming events that were able to display the athletes and showcase the athletes, but also challenge the athletes and allow for, everyone that was there to express their potential at a really, really high level. I think that they're really getting close to being able to do that. And I think that still is going to take some refinement in the divisions and who qualifies, and kind of breaking down the divisions a little bit more so that athletes can really, really express what they're capable of without it being unfair to anyone. Definitely what's going to have to happen in the future is that it's going to have to expand and allow for every division to participate. For the first year and for this year, the only divisions that were allowed to compete at the CrossFit Games were the upper limb, the lower limb, and the neuromuscular. I think that they've been limited on how many people they can have participating. I think that they are also probably limited on the venue and the accessibility that the Alliant Energy Center has for the vast array of athletes that they want to eventually have allowed to participate. And that's why I think this will probably be the last year that the CrossFit Games are in Madison. I think that they're going to have to find a venue that's more accessible to be able to have competitors and athletes that are in wheelchairs, for it to make sense for those athletes to be able to compete at a high level. They're going to have to find ways to, make it a little bit more accessible. But with all those factors, for me as an athlete, I felt like I was tested. I was able to really express my fitness at a very, very high level. And the athletes that I got to compete against were extremely, extremely fit. And so to me, it was an amazing experience as an athlete, and also getting to coach an athlete that was competing there in the adaptive divisions. Awesome. It was for the first year, for it being a tough year with all the question marks and potential limitations of COVID and all the things that come with that, the unknown of what that is going, or how much that's going to affect the competition. I thought they did an awesome job. And I think that it really, really, year one, I think really set the stage for growth in the future. And they're already starting to take those steps. They're expanding the qualification process for the adaptive divisions. I think, and I know the people who are in charge of the adaptive divisions, I think that they're really working hard to refine the qualification process and refine the division standards for each division to make sure that, in the future, they're going to be able to find the fittest person in each division and not just the least disabled. I think that's ultimately always the goal of an adaptive division is at the end of the weekend, knowing that the person that's standing on top of the podium is the fittest athlete with said adaptation, not just the least disabled person in that division. And that's a fine line to walk in making sure that you're allowing for the athletes to showcase themselves and express their fitness at a high level, without it just being, simple, easy movements. You're really testing the skill and the strength and the capacity that each athlete has, and kind of nullifying any differences that those divisions may have within them.
So I want to finish up with this is, I read somewhere that you actually did the open and the quarterfinals both ways, both in the adaptive division, written for the your adaptive division, and you did it RX.
Yes.
With small modifications.
Yes.
Is it just because you have a touch of crazy, or what was there another reason why you wanted to do that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it probably is a little bit of that. I will admit to that. At the time that the Open happened, there was no for sure that there was at the time that the Open happened, we didn't think that there was going to be anything for adaptive divisions beyond the Open. It was originally presented as, for the first year of including the adaptive divisions in the CrossFit Games season, that the Open was kind of just that was going to be it. It was going to be to kind of initially introduce these divisions and allow for CrossFit to get some metrics on how much participation they were going to get, how they could break it down into the different competitive divisions. And so knowing that, I said, well, I'll do the adaptive divisions to participate and that kind of thing. But also I wanted to be able to challenge myself as an athlete and see how far I could go in the qualification process, knowing that CrossFit was kind of introducing this kind of new format with the quarterfinals and semifinals and then the games. So knowing that there was kind of that second tier after the Open for a large amount of people to be able to participate in, I said, why not? It's 2 workouts a weekend. I would be working out that often in that 4-day span anyways. Yeah. I said, let's go ahead and give it a go. Like you said, I was able to qualify for the quarterfinals, that second stage in the Open competitive divisions.
And you finished like 1200th in the quarterfinals?
I think so. I'll take your word for it. That sounds right. In North America, so not in the world, in North America. Something like that. I had one of the workouts for me was kind of a softball, where I was able to put up a really, really solid score in one of the workouts. I think I took, 135th in North America in the pistol GHD rope climb workout. Pistols and GHDs are probably my 2 best movements. I think I can compete with the best of them on those 2 movements. So I was able to do pretty well in that. Also the front squat 4 rep max. I'm a pretty good squatter. So I was able to put up a decent score in that and then kind of just survive other than that. Performed fairly well. Not anywhere near being able to make that next level as a semifinal qualifier, but I was able to give it my best go. Yeah.
And I loved how you adapted the wall walks.
Yeah.
So to explain to the listeners how you did that.
That was one of the toughest ones. And I was, I've done wall walks in many different variations before. That being one of them. But with the standards of the tape lines, that definitely kind of threw a little bit of a wrench for me. And I just, again, with pretty much everything else that I've done in CrossFit in the past, just kind of had to figure it out. So I basically, just to be able to do the wall walks, stacked up bumper plates kind of in a row on my left side, to where I could kind of just start in this like push-up position with my left arm up on those plate stacks. And then, just, press up into a push-up, walk myself back. I do handstand push-ups like that. I can stack plates up on my left side, kick up into a handstand and do handstand push-ups. And so then from there, it was just kind of figuring out how to make sure that I was hitting the standard with the 2 tape lines on each rep, where as I walked out, I kind of had to reach a little bit further with my left arm to be able to tap that tape line. And then on my walk up to the wall, just making sure that I had that tape line kind of up and over the stack of bumper plates that I had, to be able to tap that and then kind of just gracefully fall back down to that starting position.
And you ended up doing, I think, 37 wall walks.
That sounds right. Yeah, I think I was 3 reps into the round of 21. So yeah, whatever that math is, I think it was like 1, 3, 6, 9, 15. And then 3 reps into that round of 21 there at the end. So yeah.
So impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, it's been an awesome chat with you, but
Thanks.
for our listeners, we are recording this on the day after Dave Castro was let go from CrossFit. I think just about 12 hours ago, the news broke that he was let go of CrossFit. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask you your take on that.
I have probably an interesting perspective on Dave. First off, just from the standpoint of kind of how I see the way that he's always approached organizing the CrossFit Games, I think that it's going to be very, very hard for CrossFit to, match that. Do they have an excellent team around him? And that's kind of still there. Yes, absolutely. So do I still think that they'll be able to put on a great event and a great test of fitness and truly be able to crown the fittest on earth without him? I think that they will. I will really be interested to see how Justin Berg takes on that role. It's going to be, I think, a huge challenge for him. And, maybe they are setting him up for some failure. I don't know. Dave blocked me on Instagram a couple years ago. So I have, like I said, an interesting outlook on Dave. Why I was blocked on Instagram by Dave Castro, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that I was critical of some of the comments that he made on Patrick Vellner after one of those documentaries came out that Vellner was pretty critical of kind of the cutting process, and Dave was posting some videos on his Instagram of Patrick and kind of directly calling him out. And I think I made a comment on one of Dave's Instagram post that was pretty critical of him being the director of the CrossFit Games, individually calling out athletes. I didn't think that was very classy. But that's just kind of the type of person that Dave is. He's very abrasive and he's willing to just kind of speak his mind, which on the flip side is probably one of the reasons that he's been able to be so successful in, being the director of the CrossFit Games for so long, and why they've been able to grow it to such a huge event and such a huge spectacle for athletes. So I don't know. I think it's going to be tough for them. I was honestly, even given the fact that Dave blocked me on Instagram, when I first saw it, I was like, oh no, this is not a good thing. But I'm always optimistic, and I will certainly give the CrossFit Games their chance and be willing to again kind of participate in as much as they'll allow me to do. And I'll be pulling for them because I love CrossFit. It's obviously done great things for me in both my personal life and in my career. So yeah, hopefully things continue to just grow and develop as they would have either way. Yeah.
My sentiments exactly. I want it to grow, and I hope that this is a good move, and that CrossFit does what they need to do to keep growing the sport.
Yeah.
Well, with that, Casey, it's been an awesome hour chatting with you and getting to know you a little bit better.
Likewise,
good luck next week in WODAPALOOZA, or this will be out actually the week of WODAPALOOZA.
Awesome. Good timing.
And so, yeah, we'll wish you luck on the 5th straight title, and hopefully we'll see you there. I
appreciate it. Yeah. If you see me, holler at me. I'm easy to find. So.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Have a good one.